to episode 18 of In the Abstract, the Lakeland Title podcast. I'm your host, Brian Johnson, the owner and founder of Lakeland Title. And for this episode, we're going to talk about real estate movies. So these are going to be movies that are films that involve real estate, or maybe, real estate plays a prominent role. And for that, we're bringing back one of our guests, Nathan Velasquez. He was on another episode of our podcast where we discussed Louisiana homes in film. And so he's a film expert, and you may know him from YouTube from the 5 Minute Critic, which is a YouTube channel that he has that you should check out. So we brought him back on to discuss all things movie related that involve real estate. So thanks, Nathan, for coming back on.
Yeah, thank you for having me back on the podcast. And I actually, last time we spoke was in Los Angeles, and now I am in New York City. And New York City, people talk about real estate a whole lot more here than they do in LA.
Kind of a big thing up there.
Yeah, and it's still insanely expensive, but still more reasonably priced. The saddest thing about LA was that you could hardly even look at a house for like less than $350,000. Like you couldn't even drive by it for that amount of money. You needed hundreds of thousands of dollars, like millions of dollars for even like a shabby home.
So you find New York real estate more reasonable than LA?
New York City real estate is not more reasonable, but you can get on a train and in less than 45 minutes be in an area where you have much more reasonable real estate prices.
Okay, there we go. So so you ready to jump right into it? I have a list of movies
that
we can talk about, and
Go ahead.
Hopefully you've seen these, and if not, maybe I can fill you in because I've seen them all. So
the ones that I have not seen or wasn't able to get back to for the podcast, I have questions. So okay. Yeah, hopefully you can help fill me in on those.
So we're going to start with The Money Pit, which was Tom Hanks, Shelley Long, 1986. This is an older one. Critics didn't really like it. I enjoyed it, but it might just be because it was showed on TV a lot when I was growing up. So this is the story. They buy this house. They think they're getting a great deal on this kind of fixer-upper house, this beautiful mansion. And of course, it just turns out to be a nightmare, and kind of challenges their relationship. But kind of the whole story is kind of them going through this process of renovating this horrible house. And the reason they call it a money pit is that that's a term in real estate where you just keep throwing money into this kind of disaster property. You fix one thing, another thing breaks, or you try to fix something and 3 more things that are broken are discovered, and that kind of process.
I actually saw this for the first time, like right whenever the lockdown started. So I liked seeing that this was going to be on the list. This one is still pretty fresh. I thought this one was fun. I love watching the older Tom Hanks movies, and that was the first time seeing it. Really, really enjoyed it. The thing that I felt most in going through these or thinking back through these is on the list, there's like a bunch of movies that fit into like the corporate category, and you talk about real estate from a corporate perspective. And then there's some that are like fully personal, and the real estate takes on a whole new meaning. And this one, I felt, fits more in the personal category. But I first of all think that it's incredibly funny. The young couple not being honest with themselves at all about this situation before they even buy the house. That's what I kind of felt like the movie, or like the house, or the real estate portion represents, was just a total lack of honesty between the two characters. And then the more that you go through the movie, like near the end, they finally have to kind of be honest with themselves. And that's like the first time that they actually take a step into actually getting everything together and repairing everything. But I love this movie. I thought it was very funny. What do you think of it?
I thought it was great. I think it's funny. And the part with the contractor, every time they would ask him, when's it going to be finished? And it was always, 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks will be. Because that's anybody who's ever done any kind of renovation or construction project or whatever, that is really kind of what they say. It's always, 2 weeks. Yeah, we'll be done. And it's never that. And so nothing ever comes.
Is that incredibly common? How common is that? Like, is that just the standard?
Yeah, because nobody really knows. There's so many different things that can affect a construction project. So, weather affects it. If your subcontractors just don't show up, because that happens a lot, they, don't show up or whatever, or, you've got other jobs going on at the same time. And so one job gets delayed, it delays another job. And so, so they just kind of guess, and they always say things like that, like, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Yeah. But, and
do you have a circumstance? What's the closest circumstance you've been in or you've heard of that is closest to this story?
Well, when my brother was renovating his house, it was right in the middle of his renovation is when the big flood hit Baton Rouge. And
Oh,
so
2016.
yeah, and so
Man.
it was right in the middle of it, and so that just threw everything into chaos because you had everybody needed work done, and so subcontractors were very busy. Supplies were hard to come by and all that kind of stuff, and so it was definitely that kind of situation where it's like maybe they'll show up and do the work today, maybe not. Who knows?
Goodness, wow, that's ridiculous. Yeah, I watched last year, actually the last 2 years. Have you watched the reality show on Netflix, Selling Sunset?
No, I haven't seen that yet. So, but
That is entertaining.
Trailers. So.
Okay. It's more entertaining than it was not my idea to watch it, but it was very entertaining. Took like 2 episodes to be like full on into it. And they do always kind of talk about that when they're in the development stage. This thing will be like, it was filmed in 2017 and they're like, we're hoping it'll be done by like 2020 or something, or they'll be on a project and then one of them will be like, well, this was supposed to be done like 3 years ago before any of you even worked here and we're still working on it.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but yeah, and the Money Pit, that movie, the actual house from that movie, somebody ended up buying it to renovate it, and it ended up being an actual money pit. Like they bought it to renovate it, and they did the renovation, but they ended up having to sell it for a loss because the renovation was so extensive.
And when was this? That was the 80s?
The movie was in the 80s. The person, I think it was in the 2000s, or maybe early 2000s, when the people bought it and actually tried to renovate it and had to end up selling it at a loss. So the Money Pit house ended up being an actual money pit in the end.
Poor guys. Guys. Wow.
But still a great movie. I mean, Tom Hanks is always great, and Shelley Long, she's, classic actress.
You might remember, I don't fully remember this part of the movie. Did Shelley Long know that she didn't sleep with Walter? And she was just using that as like kind of a thing towards Tom Hanks, like just as like a possible fight.
I don't think, no, she didn't, because she didn't remember what happened. She found out later and she didn't tell him.
Okay.
She didn't, at first she thought she did. And then she found out later she didn't sleep with the conductor guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
she didn't tell him until the end when he said he was okay with it and he still wanted to be in the relationship. And then I think she told him that
was the only, I love the movie. I think the movie's very funny. That was the only part of the movie where afterwards, me and the other people we watched with was like, yeah, no, that was cool. But then also like, she was kind of a dick for the way that she was going about like withholding that information, giving that information.
Yeah. I guess he was trying to test the strength of the relationship, I guess.
That's how you test it. That's the right way to test the strength of a relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I guess in the 80s, things were different. And so then the next one is The Breakup, 2006, Vince Vaughn, Jennifer Aniston.
I saw this one right whenever it came out, and I did rewatch it as well. So I am fully up. I know who was at fault. I remember everyone's motives and everything like that in The Breakup. What did you think of the movie?
Well, I mean, yeah. So this movie's about Vince Vaughn and Jennifer Aniston. Their characters meet and start a relationship, and they buy this condo, and then they break up, and they have to go through the process of selling the condo. And I mean, I thought it was funny. I mean, Vince Vaughn, I've always been a big fan of him, and I just think most of his movies that he does, anytime he's in something, I think he brings a humor to the character that I enjoy. And Jason Bateman was in this one too as the realtor. And
is this the only movie with an actual realtor? Like a realtor is a very commonly recurring character, not someone that just shows up at one point. Did another movie have one? Yeah,
there's been a bunch of movies that have involved realtors in it.
Well, I mean, like on this list.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
I'm trying to think back who else was a realtor. Did the Queen of Versailles have one?
I don't think so. No. Mm-mm. But Glengarry and Ross, that they're all realtors.
I guess they are realtors. Yeah, I guess so. They seem like a different, like not the type of realtor you think of. They're like
that was the very early days of realtors. So they might have just been agents. It might have been before realtor was a big, because realtor and
when did realtor become a big thing?
Different things.
Oh, okay. Well, I just go through basic renting processes. I have yet to really get a full on realtor, so I'm out of knowing the logistics of all of that.
Yeah. So real estate agent is what your state license makes you. So if you get to buy and sell real estate for people, to represent people in those transactions, you become a real estate agent, and you get your state license through that. To be a realtor is when you join the board of realtors. And so they're the people who control
Okay.
the MLS, the multiple listing service, and all that kind of stuff. So you join, it's a separate organization on top of the regular state licensing scheme.
Gotcha. Okay. That if I'd known that, I probably would have seen the Breakup totally differently.
Yeah. But I mean, most every real estate agent is a realtor because it's hard to get access. You can't get access to the MLS, the multiple listing service, if you're not a realtor, because it belongs to them. And if your sponsoring broker is a realtor, you have to be a realtor also. So that kind of thing. But
well, so how close did Jason Bateman do a good job playing the role close to that type of personality?
Well, it was funny because one of the lines when he's talking about it and he says, I don't even want to take a commission on this. And they said, oh, you're not going to take a commission? And he's like, oh, wait, no, I have to. It's company policy. But I don't want
that
to.
Was funny.
That was funny because I mean, that's very typical. I mean, I don't want to, but I have to. It's company policy. I can't.
There is like, what? If I could waive it, I would, but
yeah,
like,
I can't. Policy, I can't. So that was kind of funny. That was a funny line of his.
Well, I think the Breakup was very funny, very fun. It felt like on this one, the property represented more a level of immaturity. Like throughout the entire thing, like even in that scene with Jason Bateman, like it's very clear. I think he even says like, neither of you can do this. Like doing this breakup, this is not going to work. You both need to get out of here. Like y'all are not seeing the forest for the trees on this issue. And at first, whenever the breakup starts, I was full on like, this is Vince Vaughn's fault. Like he is not, he's leaving so much slack behind on his end that like she needs to get out of this thing. And then the more ways she tries to like repair things or move forward is just also so childish that they like in the middle of it, like by the time Jason Bateman's character has to sit down with them, what is it? They're playing what is it? Pictionary? Is that what they're playing?
I think so. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. And it's just so awkward. They do it does a really good job. They do. I think that it feels like the apartment again is a character in this, and they're both just so immature. They have no idea what to do with it.
Well, and everyone can learn a lesson from it because I mean, I do closings, all day, every day. And so I see this all the time where people are buying a house with somebody they're not married to. And it's just, I can't tell them anything, but I kind of want to say like, please don't do this. Like, cause if if you're married and you get divorced, there's a process to, separate that property. But if it's just somebody you're dating, you're just co-owners and it can create so many problems when you try to get out of it outside of just the relationship issues, just the legal, getting out of it. Because if one person doesn't want to sell, it just can create all kind of headaches.
So you, in your role, you don't have to actually be there whenever they do break up, or do you come back into the picture for that?
Only if they would need to transfer the property in some way outside of like some sort of court order. So
okay.
If they were
have you been involved in anything like that?
Oh yeah. It happens a lot. Yeah. Where one person will buy the other person out, or they'll, donate their half of the property to the other person, in exchange for that person taking over the mortgage and that kind of stuff. Yeah. So yeah, it does happen a lot.
Sounds depressing.
Yeah. But
is it funny?
It's just real estate transfers. The weirdest ones are when people are in the process of getting divorced and they're selling a house. Those are the weirdest ones. Because they're not divorced yet. And so they both have to be at the closing or they both have to sign. And it just becomes a crazy situation. I've had ones where they're arguing over repairs that they should be reimbursed for. And they try to bring me into it. And I just have to tell them, like, leave me out of this. Like, handle this between yourselves or with your lawyers or whatever. Like, I'm not negotiating any of this stuff. Like, just tell me who to make reimbursement checks to and I'll do it. But I'm not.
But you've got the breakup, 2 copies of the breakup on Blu-ray and be like, this is all I can give you guys.
Exactly.
This is the only offering that I can give you in this fight.
Yes. Take your lessons from whatever.
But I don't know what's the next one? Just because I'm just curious.
The Queen of Versailles.
Okay. Well, then the last thing I was going to say about the breakup was that on the DVD of this, because I got this, I remember like my parents got this to watch way back when it came out. And I remember that on the front of the DVD menu, you had to choose a character that you were going to support, like either the Jennifer Aniston side of it. And it looked like the poster, because the poster was like a piece of duct tape going right down a bed. And that reminded me a lot. I thought of that moment, that part of the DVD menu, whenever in War of the Roses, he kind of puts the blueprint out and they've mapped out and color coded who gets what part of the house. Yeah. So if that was, I just wanted to mention that. And if War of the Roses was next, then that'd be a cool segue. But I watched the Queen of Versailles. So, yeah. I watched the Queen of Versailles last night.
Amazing.
It's so funny. Amazing. It's great.
This one is a documentary about Jackie Siegel, former Miss Florida. and her husband, David Siegel, the founder and CEO of Westgate Resorts, which is a timeshare company. And it's the process of them building this 85,000 square foot home in Florida, which at that time was going to be, it was the largest single family home that someone was actually going to live in. The Biltmore estate was bigger, but no one lived there. Like no one lives there.
That's what yeah. I didn't look it up, but I was wondering that, like, if this came out in 2012, has there been a larger house built since then? Is it still number one?
Well, there has been, but the thing is, so they haven't lived in that house yet. The Queen of Versailles house, they haven't moved in yet. I think it might still even be under construction, but someone else has built a bigger one, but no one's moved into that one yet either. And then the Biltmore estate, people actually lived there. That's 178,000 square feet. It's a museum now, but someone did live there at one point. And so that has,
so it's almost double then.
Yeah. But nobody lives there anymore. It's just a museum. So, but at one point somebody lived there. So that has the record for the largest. And so
that's insane. I saw that they are planning to have it, like the Money Pit, who knows? They're planning to have it done in 2022 is what I saw yesterday on, I forget her name. Whatever the queen's name, I forget her exact name, but Jackie, that's right, Jackie Siegel. She put on Instagram that they're also trying to get like a reality TV show made about getting the house back up and running and finishing the construction. I think she keeps like tweeting and tagging the Real Housewives of Miami to kind of put her on the show. So looks like the drama is still going on. I was happy to see that. And
when they started filming this documentary, it wasn't about the real estate crisis, because the real estate crisis hadn't happened yet. It was just about the house.
Perfect.
And then the real estate crisis happened in the middle of it, and they almost lost the house, and he almost went bankrupt and all that kind of stuff. And eventually it all worked out, and he was able to save the house. He tried to sell it at one point, but nobody wanted to buy it.
I loved that how near the beginning they're asking him why it is that he's doing this, and he kind of gives like the Mount Everest answer of how because it's there, it's because I can do it. And then near the end, they're asking him it again, and he's kind of like, he's sitting there and you can tell he's already aged just in like the last 3 or 4 years. And he's like, I think I said something like I did it because I could, or I wanted to. He's like, don't spend the money you don't have. And you can and you see him literally throughout the documentary in piles of paper, like surrounding like entire rooms. And oh man, I'm surprised he didn't have like a heart attack and he's still around.
But that's a funny thing for a guy who made his fortune and runs a timeshare company, because like the whole kind of principle behind timeshares is kind of spending money you don't have. I mean, it's kind of a shady industry, and I've never encountered someone who's really happy with their timeshare. And so it's funny that he would come to that realization. It's like, that's your whole business. That's what you do.
Well, I guess he kind of kept saying that same thing too. He was relying on cheap money, and it eventually caught up with him. Like if things go wrong, no one's going to want to keep their properties, and then at that point, the banks are going to need money.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So, and then that brings us to our next one. I had a question about this for you. So this was the one that I felt was the most in the middle in terms of the like on one side we've got the very corporate movies like The Big Short and Margin Call, and then you've got the people dealing with houses. This felt like the one that was combining the two of those the most, because you have the king, Don. Is it Don Siegel? David Siegel. David Siegel. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then you have Jackie Siegel, who is completely, I don't know if you can believe her or not. I kind of did believe her that she had no idea what was going on. And she just kind of lives this, I spend the money and, so I just need more money and I need the credit card and things like this. So she's kind of she just sees it as a palace. She's living in a palace. In the same way everyone else kind of sees everything as their own palace. So I thought that was interesting. But do you feel any level of, are they bad? I don't want to say bad people. Are they evil people? I felt like there were points in the movie where like they kind of hint at this level of, greed, and it makes you fall and everything. Throughout the whole kind of just felt like, oh, what a sad story about people that, were unfortunate in getting this thing. And like, they're getting the biggest house ever. And it's kind of like, oh, well, I guess maybe you should, I don't know, feel bad at them for doing that. But I just felt sorry for them.
I mean, I don't think they're evil, but I mean, I think David Siegel, I think he knows that his business takes advantage of people. I mean, I don't know how you could sell timeshares and not realize that you are taking advantage of people, and their sales techniques are pretty pushy, and I don't know how they wouldn't realize that they're taking advantage of people. And so I think now
Okay.
Jackie Siegel, I just think she is someone who was not raised with money. And so she doesn't really understand how to deal with it or preserve it or wisely spend it. And so she just kind of, just spends on things and buys things thinking that
Caviar.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And just all the stuff for that house. Like how much stuff do you need? Like there's too much clutter. But and I just think it's somebody who wasn't raised with money, all of a sudden having, basically unlimited supply of it, and no one ever taught her how to deal with it or the proper use of it. So.
Yeah, I didn't think either of them were very evil either. I thought a few times the movie might have maybe hinted at something in that direction of you. Whenever he talked about George Bush, I felt like it was kind of eking in that direction, and he didn't do himself any favors in that interview, I didn't think. But I thought it was funny, I guess, last point, whenever she goes to visit Tina. And then like the captions at the end are like, Tina was having to foreclose on her house. And then it was, Jackie sent $5,000 to save her. It's like, that was kind of a moment of like, isn't Jackie so sweet? And that is sweet, but it's also like $5,000. That's, that she spends $5,000 every day on just like her own shit.
Exactly. Yeah. But again,
I thought that was funny.
It wouldn't have solved the problem for either of them, because just giving, like, that's the whole thing. Like Jackie has all this money that she never really earned, and that's why she doesn't appreciate it or really know how to deal with it.
I thought that one was funny. I liked the Queen of Versailles a lot. That was very
It was good. It was good. Hopefully they make a sequel or something. I don't know. But or they
if
get
they get this house
show.
built, they need to. Hopefully they're back out there filming for like a follow up of what's going on.
Yeah. So, all right. So now The Big Short, 2015. So this one has huge actors in it: Christian Bale, Steve Carell, Ryan Gosling, Brad Pitt. And so it's all about the 2008 mortgage crisis. And Christian Bale plays Michael Burry, who had a bunch of short interests, in mortgage-backed securities, and kind of made a fortune doing that. And it's kind of their story. So have you seen this one?
I saw this one in theaters. So I am going to be talking about a movie that I saw about 5 or 6 years ago. But I did see this one. I liked it a lot. It felt like a very entertaining documentary with very, very famous actors.
Yeah.
It felt, go ahead.
I thought it was a little too many big actors in it. Too many like kind of big actor, scene stealer kind of actor. I thought it was a little too much. It was a little too
much in the
personalities were too big.
Too distracting from what's actually happening.
Yeah. And like just kind of unrealistic. Like, a lot
how much of it is bundling? Yeah, go ahead.
A lot of those characters were a lot cooler than their real life counterparts. And I just thought they kind of made it, people in the real estate industry are not that cool as, Christian Bale and Ryan Gosling and all that. And just kind of.
Yeah, well, I remember the part wherever they are kind of looking at, or there's a part where they're looking at two guys that are kind of bragging at the bar, right?
Yeah.
Two real estate people. Yeah. That seemed a little bit like they're like mobsters in the 40s or something like that. It kind of had that feeling. And so I didn't know, is that the type of thing you're talking about?
Yeah. Just a little kind of too cool for school kind of,
Yeah. Like it's, I feel like the feeling at the very end is, and the questions I had were more about the feeling at the end of the, oh crap, this could happen again type thing. So I don't know if it was maybe, do you think they needed to portray people like that in order to make a wide audience feel the level of danger that they're like they're not gangsters, but they might be as irresponsible as the type of gangster characters you think of?
Yeah.
Do you think that was part of it?
Yeah. And I think the movie did a good job of explaining the whole situation in a way that people could easily understand and digest. So I did think it did a good job.
Do you think that, is there another bubble like that you think is going to pop? I mean, eventually, but like, what do you think?
I don't believe so, because so much has changed since then. I mean, that was right when I was starting out in the industry. And so I saw it. And so, we, as title agents, we were sitting there saying, I can't believe these people are approved for this loan. The loan originators are saying, I can't believe I got these people approved for this loan. The people buying the house are saying, I can't believe they approved me for this loan. And so it's just kind of this, in the piggyback mortgages where you would get, your 80% mortgage from one lender and then a 20% mortgage from another lender, so that you're not putting anything down. So, stated income mortgages where you're just like, they're basing your loan amount off of what you say your income is. And so people were saying their gross, not their net. So their whole take home pay would end up being their mortgage payment. And so you'd have houses foreclosed on with no equity and just those kind of tactics. Whoa. That doesn't happen anymore. loan standards are much higher and much more stringent than they were back then. And so the loans that are out there now are much better loans than they were in 2008. So I don't think it's going to happen again.
Okay. Do you think they're making another bubble somewhere else right now?
I mean, there may be a slight correction in the real estate market because prices are very, very high. But a lot of that's just due to inventory. It's not due to bad loans or anything like that. It's just due to lack of supply. Whereas back in 2008, the prices were crazy just because people were just buying and getting approved for loans for everything. And so it was more just kind of a demand function rather than a supply function. So I don't think, I mean, there may be a correction, but I don't think it'll be like 2008. I don't think that'll happen again just because the standards are so much higher now that the loans are
good.
Better. There aren't that many bad loans out there like there were back then.
Okay. Well, thank you. There you go. I can I can rest well at night knowing there won't be another crash like that. It's scary. Near the end of the movie, it was scary because it does end on a level of like the banks are continuing some bad practices. I thought it ended like that.
Yeah, and they may have initially, but I mean, right after that whole crisis, everything, clamped down and the standards were even higher than they are now. So,
okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, right after that, the standards were crazy high to get a mortgage. And so, so I think they did kind of learn their lesson. They've loosened up a little bit, but nothing compared to what it was in 2008, when the peak of the crisis. So
cool. Good.
But I was actually,
I like that.
I was actually supposed to go work for a title company right when that crisis was happening. And I was about to start. And then, the crisis happened and their biggest client, which was Countrywide Mortgage, pulled out of Louisiana. And they're like, we can't afford to hire you now. They were about to open up a 6th office and they had to shut down to like 3 offices. So yeah. So
didn't the crash happen right after Gustav in Louisiana? I thought it was pretty soon after that happened that it came
Gustav
that happened.
But
I thought that was 2008.
I thought Gustav was like 2006 or 7, maybe. I don't know.
I might have my timeline mixed up. I didn't have my eyes on the papers too much during the financial crisis.
Yeah, but I mean, it didn't really happen all at 2008. Like it was a slow kind of build up. Like the foreclosures started happening more and more. Because I remember there were people out there shopping for foreclosures, and they're like, "There's no wiggle room because the entire mortgage balance is what's owed. So there's no, the bank's not really can't really negotiate that much." So,
jeez. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, I like The Big Short. I think it's a lot of fun.
I did too, but the next one I much prefer to The Big Short, which is Margin Call, which is 2011.
That's what I wrote down. That's the note that I wrote down. This feels like the actual real world story of how something like The Big Short happens. So I liked it a lot. 2011,
Kevin Spacey, Zachary Quinto, Demi Moore. And so this is about the 2008 financial crisis, but this is the night they find out. So this is all about the day that they find out that this is all going to happen. And Zachary Quinto's character is kind of, this kind of genius rocket scientist who now works in the financial industry. And he's the one that figures out with the help of another character that this is all, this is all going to blow up. And so it's kind of that whole story. And supposedly it's based on Goldman Sachs because they were the first ones to figure it out and get out. But no one really knows, but supposedly they were the ones that survived because they figured it out first and sold off everything. And
well, I felt like comparing this one to The Big Short, like if The Big Short, you kind of start right off the bat and it's like the whole thing's narrated. So someone's always going like, so you want to figure out how this happened. Well, I'm about to tell you. It started with this and then this happened. And then that person did that thing and blah, 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 blah. This one, I thought this one was a lot more suspenseful because I don't actually know what's going on. Like the amount of times that people in this movie go, speak English to me. And then they have to say the complicated thing in a normal way. Like this one felt like the whole movie is like slowly peeling back the skin on this like dying industry. And each scene, you get a little bit more of how effed up the whole thing is. And then it ends with one of the characters explaining to, what is his name? It was Will explaining to Seth in the car of how like, forget all these people that it's going to affect. Look out for yourself. We did what we could for them, blah, blah, blah. They don't really matter. It's all about us and all the stuff we do. And it's like the whole movie, like it shows how terrible everything is and how the people running all this stuff just have this feeling of oh, he made 2.5 million this year. I made $250,000. I made this. I made that. I spent $70,000 on booze and hookers and things like that. Like it doesn't ever like say to you, how could these people do this thing? You're just watching it happen. That's why I like this movie a whole lot more.
Yeah, and it was, very realistic. I think the characters were, very much like they would be in kind of the real world. So it
felt like a thriller. I thought it felt a lot like it had that thriller because I watched the scene wherever they are looking at the computer where Zachary Quinto is showing them what he's looking at. I had to watch that 3 times because I felt like I don't fully even get what they're saying is happening here. Like I feel the level and the gravity of the situation, but it's not until then Kevin Spacey comes through and then they have like it's not until like they're actually with Jeremy Irons where you're like, oh wow, okay, so you're selling everything tonight is what's actually happening. Exactly. I really love this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I think it was good. I do think it's based on Goldman Sachs, but who knows? Maybe we'll never know. And so the next one is The War of the Roses, 1988. Michael Douglas, Kathleen Turner, Danny DeVito, off there. Kind of at the time when they were just the it group. They had just done like Romancing the Stone and
I haven't seen Romancing the Stone.
Oh, great movies. I
hadn't seen this one either.
Okay.
I love this one. I thought it was very funny.
Yes, the movie starts out with Danny DeVito. He's a divorce attorney, and one of the partners at the firm, comes to talk to him about getting a divorce, and so he tells the story of the Roses, who just kind of like this couple trying to kind of build their life. It's kind of the story of them trying to build their life together, and part of that is this old house mansion, really, that they find, and they go through the process of kind of renovating it and turning it into their dream home. And then once that's over, the relationship kind of falls apart because it was their whole relationship was kind of based on this goal of creating this perfect life, having the perfect kids, having this beautiful house, and then it's done and they kind of don't know how to live with each other anymore. And they go through the process of getting a divorce, and neither one of them wants to give up this dream home. And so they decide to, while they're going through a divorce, try to live in this house together and divide it up, and they just fight like cats and dogs during the whole thing, and end up killing each other. But
first of all, I think Danny DeVito is an awesome director. I forget the exact name. I think it was like Throw Mom from the Train was another movie that he directed.
Very nice. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which is a fun, like it's just very fun. Like everything feels very physical, and the camera tricks and all of the cinematography is a lot of fun. Like it tells the story visually in a way that's very, very fun. And I thought that was the most fun thing about this. I thought that the house again felt like it played a character, and it represented not knowing. I thought it represented value. Like they always talk about how much they value it, but throughout the whole thing, what is her name? Remind me her name. It's Barbara.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Barbara. She has like a misplaced sense of value. Like everything of value is in the house. And she's got that great kind of like voiceover where she's talking about how she's worked her whole adult life to kind of make this house what it is. And she loves it and it's special to her. And then she talks about how she does it and everyone that sees it sees the value in it, but she hates all the people that see the value in it because she hates that type of person.
Yeah.
Michael Douglas, he throughout the whole thing is going through this crisis of like, well, I own all this stuff because I have the value in it because I got the money that paid for it. So that's the real value. And then at the end, Danny DeVito is talking to this guy and he's like, look, if you're going to get a divorce, think about this because reassess the marriage before you go down this road because it's not that easy. And like, look at the value that you have. So that I thought that was kind of like, it felt something that was going on all throughout the movie. But even without that, it's so funny. They do a great job. They're so mean. They're so like, there's so much bitterness in the movie. It's so funny.
Yeah. They just have the great chemistry too, but which can lead to those great fights and the fact that they have chemistry to begin with. But yeah, and it's just kind of like, she doesn't really know what to do with herself after it's finished. Like that was her whole purpose. And now what does she do? And she starts the catering business that he kind of, shits all over.
Well, he pees all over it.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. But
the dog, the part with the pad thai.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, that was rough. That was, but good. That was very good.
And I did divorce work briefly, and it does get like that. It's
whoa, that's so
not where people kill each other, but where they fight over every little thing, and it's not about it's not really about what they're fighting over. It's about not letting the other person win and that kind of stuff. So yeah, so it's
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that. The what is it that Danny DeVito says at the end? We said like be generous to the point that it's going to give you night sweats.
Yeah,
I
something
thought
like
that was great. I thought that was very good. That was very good. Funny, very funny movie.
Great movie. Now, I mean, there was some debate on whether they actually did kill each other at the end, whether they actually died or not, but some people think they did. I think they did.
Do you think they did? Okay.
I think they did, yeah.
My thought was that they hadn't, but that does actually, hearing you say that, that does make sense.
But regardless, one of the best scenes in the movie is that final scene with her where he puts his hand on her like they're about to die, or whether they die or not, who knows, but they may be dying, and he puts his hand on her, and she just, like, the last thing she does is just move the hand off. I was like, that is just perfect ending.
It really, I feel like that's a tough thing to do. I didn't even feel that in the worst parts of the relationship of the breakup, but I really felt like they hated each other. Like even though you like both of them, you hate them together so much in this movie.
Oh yeah. Okay, so then our next one is Glengarry, Glen Ross. So this was 1992, of course, like Jack Lemmon, Alec Baldwin, Ed Harris, Kevin Spacey, adapted from a play. And so I love movies that are adapted from plays, just because I think the settings.
Really?
I love that. Yeah, because it's all kind of dialogue heavy, contained usually to one location. And so I just kind of love movies that are based off plays for that reason.
I usually like that I love I love the one location movie, like movies that do that. And normally, I guess, plays do kind of force that into the narrative. I love that.
And people who actually perform the play, when they do the movie, they emote a lot, and they kind of, I don't know, it's just a little more expressive, it seems like, from people who did a play and then do the movie version of it. So.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever see The Hateful Eight, the Tarantino movie?
I never saw that. No.
Ooh, that one's fun, but in that one, I mean, there isn't a play of that one, but it has that exact feeling you're talking about. It feels like a play. There's two settings the entire time, and each one you get like an hour and 20 minutes in each setting. And obviously, I mean, if you want good dialogue, he's got the best dialogue. Yeah, I feel like you'd probably like that movie for that. It feels like
I'm definitely going to check that out. So, but yeah, this is kind of that early days of real estate, kind of just group of realtors just trying to, they may not be realtors, they may be just real estate agents, just trying to, cold call and make as many sales as they can. And then, Alec Baldwin's character comes in with these Glengarry leads. They're just these amazing leads on these great buyers, and everybody wants them.
An interesting bit of trivia I found out while looking it up, and I guess I should start by saying I love this movie. Whenever you send me the list, I said this is the movie. I've seen this. I don't know how many times I've seen this movie. This is probably in like the top 10 movies for me. I love Glengarry, Glen Ross. It's so, I feel like the whole movie is so sad. Even whenever Al Pacino shows up, even whenever Alec Baldwin shows up and they're the successful ones, it feels so sad. Like the people they're talking to feel desperate and sad. Like it feels like it's working. And you're saying this is the early days of real estate. So I'm interested to seeing how this is viewed when looked at through the eyes of what they're actually working with when it comes to real estate. But it feels like they're working with the same level of desperation in Queen of Versailles, because no one seems to, everyone's like so desperate for that yes. And there's because there's so much lying going on too. I guess not full on lying, but every time that Jack Lemmon calls, he's got that like really sad way of lying about what's going on. And it feels like maybe this worked whenever it was your heyday, but the whole thing of kind of like, what is it? Heather, can you go ahead and put $10,000 of cash in a briefcase? I have to leave in 45. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you need me to stop by on my way to the airport? Like, it's just like, oh man. And you need that money so bad. And you're ruining your own life. And you always use like, oh, my daughter is an excuse. Just so pitiful. The movie I love the movie because everyone feels so desperate, and it's got this feeling of sadness throughout the whole thing. And that rarely happens. And also the dialogue is incredible.
Well, it kind of parallels to the Queen of Versailles in the way that, the characters in Glengarry and Ross are, they're doing cold calling. They're doing the hard sell. They're basically just like kind of salesmen, just like a timeshare, person would be, just kind of a salesman. Whereas, in modern real estate, agents are, they're in the relationship business. So they want to build a relationship with you so they can get your repeat business and get your friends business and things like that. So it's more of establishing a relationship and treating you well rather than just closing the deal, moving on to the next sale kind of thing. So
was the relationship building not around in this era of whenever Glengarry Glen Ross would have been performed like on stage and then made into a movie?
It wasn't. It was a very kind of there wasn't the internet, and so the internet changed a lot of things, and people just didn't communicate as much as they did. So it was harder to get a bad reputation. There wasn't a lot of information out there about the real estate industry. It's not like today where you can just everything you want to know about the real estate industry you can find on Google, in 5 seconds. And so it's just kind of it's more mysterious industry. Not a lot of people knew about it. Not a lot of people were doing it, and so it's just kind of a very different industry at that time. The National Association of Realtors wasn't really that as big as it is now then. Like the National Association of Realtors, I mean, it's hard to find an agent that's not a realtor, now. And they have a higher ethical standard than the regular state laws that govern real estate agents. And so they kind of police the industry a lot better than it was policed, back in the day.
Yeah, it feels like they're operating in like a Wild West kind of situation because they all feel like snake oil salesmen. Like even the best ones feel like snake oil salesmen. Even Alec Baldwin's there and he's like, first prize, get a Cadillac. Second prize, set a steak knife. Yeah. The rest of you fired. And it's like, what? Who are you? What is this? Is like, what type of person are you?
Closing speeches is one of the best,
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. I feel like that has that's like that's a meme now. That's like lived on above and beyond the movie itself.
Yeah. This watch costs more than your house, but
they're all so good. Like they all feel. I feel like they all feel sad. Like even Al Pacino feels like a sad character because he's always like other than what Shelley's going through, the Jack Lemmon character, the Ricky Roma. Like that moment wherever the sale that he did the night before comes in and he's like trying to keep him on board. You feel so bad for Al Pacino because he's he's losing it. Like he was on top of the world and now he's totally losing the whole thing. And then Kevin Spacey messes everything up, which Kevin he's good in this. Kevin Spacey's sucks that he ended up being a creep because he's a great actor.
Exactly. Yeah, he does. And then the Jack Lemmon's character ends up being the basis for Gil in The Simpsons.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
That character in The Simpsons is based off Jack Lemmon's character in Glengarry Glen Ross. So yeah.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. What else do you feel like is a difference between the way things are done in this movie when you watch it compared to how things are done now?
It's just the cold calling isn't really done anymore to sell people real estate. So you do that to get listings or establish relationships, but you're not selling people real estate over the phone anymore. That's just it's not happening.
Do you think the real estate agency just attracts, or the real estate business attracts a whole different type of person? Like would these people be able to make it in the way the real estate industry is run today, or do they just kind of?
No, they may be able to scrape by and make a little bit, but they wouldn't be a top producer or anything like that, or just because it's all about building relationships over years, and you have to actually like being in the industry and like doing it. If you're only concerned about getting the next sale, your business is going to collapse because people will see that and you won't be providing the kind of customer service people expect now. They expect a relationship. They expect you to kind of be there for them. And I've seen it. I've seen agents that operate like that, where it's just, they get the contract signed and they're kind of, out of touch or whatever, and like not very involved in the transaction. And they don't end up really doing that well, so you can't just, base it just all on sales, because you're going to run out of people to kind of sell things to.
Yeah. The Ed Harris person especially seemed like just the most unbearable person to be around.
Oh yeah. All right. So
great movie. I love that movie.
Oh yeah. And so the last one we'll talk about, it's not really a real estate movie, but I wanted to bring it up because I heard a fan theory on this one, which is Caddyshack, 1980, Rodney Dangerfield, Chevy Chase, Bill Murray. Great film. I heard a fan theory about this. Nothing in the movie really supports this or whatever, but I thought it was an interesting theory. So we all know that Rodney Dangerfield's character is a real estate developer. So I guess that's kind of real estate related, which he's very, very typical kind of real estate developer in his attitude and the way he acts. But a fan theory was that he was trying to destroy the country club because he wanted to buy it and then develop the land for like shopping centers and condos and things like that.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and so that's why he was kind of causing all that trouble. There's nothing really in the movie to support that theory, but I just thought it was a funny theory.
Everyone loves Caddyshack, so a reason to bring it up, I don't think is a problem. And that's very funny.
If you want to know how real estate developers are, they're just like Rodney Dangerfield, and I mean a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them are just like that. That kind of like gruff, rough around the edges, never hold their tongue, say what's on their mind all the time, kind of people.
I can imagine that. He felt a little bit. I could see a little bit of David Siegel in him.
Yeah,
a little bit of the. I'm sure he would fight with 8 of his children over the fact that electricity was being left on too long in the house.
Probably. Yep. So probably. But yeah, so that's it. So that's all the movies I had. So I mean, I really appreciate you, jumping on and talk about all this stuff with us. Anything you want to talk about?
No, I don't have anything in particular to talk about. I wish I don't have a real estate dealing going on that has to do with movies. Otherwise, this would be the perfect podcast for that, to kind of reverse the conversation.
Yeah.
But
maybe you can make the next great real estate movie. That could be your next project.
That could be something. Hey, what goes on in Glengarry, Glen Ross? Maybe a story about an old style real estate person, someone from the old era still trying to make it in the new era. That could be
that would be interesting.
Just scraping by.
Yeah, and there are a lot of those out there still using, handwritten contracts and fax machines and things like that. But
actually, maybe one thing we could do, because I have a podcast episode that I did with someone. I kind of want to get a longer form thing going with the channel. There are a lot of a lot of the art house theaters and kind of the more vintage and the smaller AMCs here have very interesting spaces that they put their theaters in. So that could be something. Actually, I might kind of do a little bit more research on that, send that over your way, and maybe we could have a conversation around that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'd love to have you back. So you're one of our favorite guests. So for everybody listening or watching, thanks for sticking in with us. All of Nathan's links will be in the description. So if you want to check him out, the 5-Minute Critic on YouTube. And thanks for being on the show, Nathan. We'll see you next time.
Thank you very much, Brian.
All right. Well, I hope you all enjoyed that episode. Again, like all of Nathan's links and all of my links are going to be in the description. And if you like this episode, give us a like or give us a 5-star rating if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or one of the other podcasting platforms. And we'll see y'all next time. Thanks for listening.